When I first quit my job over 4 years ago to launch my coaching business, there were only two things that I knew for certain. Number one, I didn't know everything that I needed to know and have the skills that I needed to know to be able to build a successful, profitable coaching business. And number two, the only resource that I couldn't get back was my time. Now, if I knew these two things for certain, that made it pretty easy. If I wanted to be a full-time coach, I had to find a coach of my own to make sure that I could get there. Now, over the last 4 years, I've spent over $500,000 on my own coaching alone. That's through different personal coaching, different masterminds, different programs, everything to make sure that I always have the support, the strategies, the details, and the accountability to make sure that I always have everything I need to get to where I want to go. Now, I've made a lot of investments, I've made some great investments, and I've made some not so great investments. So I want to run through those with you today, and I want to point out to you the most important things to be aware of. Because when somebody asks me, Xander, what's the most important investment you've made as a coach? The answer is always easy. It's the one investment that when I went through it, I thought it was the worst investment I could make. When I was first starting my coaching practice, I quit my job and I spent all of my savings and put myself into $25,000 worth of credit card debt to learn a bunch of things from bunch of different masterminds and programs. Now, one of the last masterminds that I invested in was $12,000, and this was the first time I put myself in credit card debt. And that mastermind literally taught me nothing I needed to know tactically, and it was terrible coaching and terrible support. So it was $12,000 that I felt was completely sunk. But when people ask me, Zander, what was the most important investment that you ever made when you were first starting off? It's that mastermind. And I'll tell you why. That mastermind taught me two important lessons that I could never see until probably years later. Number one, it fed all of my fears that investing in myself was a terrible decision and it wouldn't get me anywhere. But the reality was the next coaching program that I invested in filled all the last little gaps, and my coaching business turned up so quickly that had I not done it, had I stayed in that fear of, oh, coaching, investing in coaching is a bad idea, then I would have never made it. And number two, it taught me who not to be as a coach. Now, the reason I share this story with you is because over the last 4 years and the $500,000 that I've invested, I've had good investments and what many people would call bad investments. But looking back, I can never regret the investments I made. Because whether or not I want to admit it, every single thing that I invested in taught me a lesson that allowed me to get to where I am today, and I cannot regret a single investment that I made. So the reality is, yes, every coach needs a coach, and every coach needs to invest in themselves, but the truth is sometimes you get the lessons that you don't necessarily want, but you need. So I want to go through the 4 reasons that I have never been without a coach or a mentor, and the 4 reasons why you need to never be without a coach or a mentor. So reason number 1 is that your environments dictate your destiny. So Jim Rohn says that the 5 people you surround yourself with, you become the average of. So if you surround yourself with 5 smokers, you become the 6th. If you surround yourself with 5 people who are in 9-to-5s, you're gonna become the 6th. If you surround yourself with top-level coaches and entrepreneurs and people that are above you, you're gonna become the 6th. The other side of this is understanding that life will always punch you in the face. And if you don't have a mentor or a group to pick you up and make sure you get up and keep moving forward, you're gonna fall backwards and you're gonna stay down. All right, that's number 1. Your environments dictate your destiny. Number 2, you can never see your own blind spots. You know this as a coach for the people that you coach, but for some reason you forget that you have your own blind spots. You have to put your ego aside and realize that as good as you may be, you have your own blind spots. I run a multi-7-figure business, but I know that I have blind spots and I need coaches that are gonna be able to help me to see those blind spots, okay? Number 3 is you have to have the accountability to do what's necessary. For you to grow a coaching business, you're gonna have to do a lot of shit that scares you. You're gonna have to constantly get out of your comfort zone. And frankly, it's natural for us to get back into our comfort zone, settle back onto our laurels, right? You have to have somebody to keep you accountable to do the shit that scares you and make sure that you're growing your business. And number 4, and this is so plain and simple, how can you ask others to invest in themselves if you're not willing to do the same? That's the most hypocritical thing that you can do, and you will never understand what it feels like to make a big and deep investment in yourself and to truly transform and grow unless you're doing it for you. That's the only way that you can ever ask your clients to do the same. So you have to remember, the truth is, if you ever want to be a successful coach, you have to have a coach first.